It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio. Flavored with a dash of humor. Welcome to intelligent, irreverent talk about plants and the planet they grow on. Your questions, comments, and participation are always welcome on Facebook and Instagram at The Mike Nowak Show and at Mike Now on Twitter.
Good planets are hard to find. Temperate zones and tropic climes. True currents and thriving seas. Wind blowing through breathing trees. Strong ozone and safe sunshine. Well, good planets are hard to find. Good planets are in demand.
Brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com.
Jet streams, perfect air.
And here they are, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
Well, good planets are in demand. Right.
I thought we should take time to see the grasshopper.
We got the grasshopper.
And
good morning.
And the spring beauty. Good morning. And to those listening on the podcast, you have no idea what I'm talking about. You know, I'm telling you, if you're listening on the podcast, I appreciate it, first of all. Thank you. Thank you very much. But if you get a chance sometime, you should watch the live stream that we put out on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. I don't think I say that enough. You should. We need more. Okay, I will say, anybody watching for the first time today, go to the YouTube page and subscribe. Now, if you're streaming us right now at MikeNovak.net, that's awesome. We like that because we like it when you go to the website as well, because at the website you can read the blog post. If you go to the homepage, you get to see the videos. But if you go click on the blog, I do write about this, and I sweat blood putting blog posts together. So
there's blood on the keyboard when you're done, right?
Absolutely, and they get sticky when you do that. You know, and then when the blood mixes in with the whiskey, that's just a bad thing for the keyboard anyway. Not so much for me.
Oh, that explains your blog.
It could be. No. But we hope you watch us on the stream, whether it's on YouTube or on our website, MikeNovak.net, or even a Schmetabook, sometimes known as Facebook, and Elon Musk's plaything, Twitter.
Maybe he's still thinking about it.
I know, and I'm hoping he gives up, because it's going to cost him billions and billions of dollars. Billions. I have a feeling that's not working out the way he had anticipated, because he sometimes he doesn't understand the market forces himself, I guess. Anyway, welcome to the show. It's kind of a sad Sunday, even with what we've got going on in the rest of the world, which is bad enough. We lost Monty, the piping plover, or plover, depending on how. I like plover because it rhymes with lover, Plovers are for lovers, that slogan out there.
Or if the T-shirts had said Chicago is for plovers.
Exactly. So you have to say plover. But Monty left us on Friday, and I don't mean that he decided to fly south back to Texas. No. More permanent. But you have to understand, and we'll talk about that later on in the show. It's interesting. We had Bob Dolgan on last week. It would have been great to have him on this week to talk about that. But one thing you need to keep in mind about that, in a sense, it's all for the good. This is the life cycle. This is nature. This is how nature works. So plovers don't live much longer than about 5 years anyway. So this is probably right on schedule. Now, it is possible. Now, he was not eaten up by a predator.
No, it was actually people that witnessed it. Friday afternoon.
I think there was only one, or were there more than one? Was there more than one person?
The first report I saw said there was a couple of the bird monitors.
I thought there was only one, but then again, there might have been more than one bird monitor there at that time.
This is it. And for people who don't know, this is Monty of Monty and Rose fame at Montrose Beach, Chicago's nesting Great Lakes plovers.
Right.
That we've had for the last 3 or 4 years.
And have been making headlines that whole time. Somebody wrote when I posted it on Facebook, somebody said, hey, we need to pay attention to all the other animals that need our attention. And that's true. All right. We don't pay enough attention to animals that are treated cruelly and live out horrible lives on factory farms and that sort of thing. But the point about Monty and Rose is that they opened the door to a lot of people to discover nature in the city, in an urban area, in a way that has not happened before. And that's a good thing. So
the fact that the Chicago Tribune headline was Monty is dead.
Yeah.
It was one name bird, and that makes the Chicago Tribune headlines.
Yeah. And that's a good thing. So because now more people than ever are aware of those birds, and that's going to continue, I think.
And beach conservation and et cetera. Yes.
Right. All of the attending issues with those birds. So, yeah, while it's sad, it's just part of the plan. And we'll find out why Monty died. They're doing an examination of the bird, and we'll find out exactly what the problem was. And it might have just been the end of his life, the lifespan. So we will talk about that later on today. But to start, we're talking trees because we love to talk trees on this show, thanks to our primary sponsor, Bartlett Tree Experts. Wait, where's what? Okay, I can top that. All right, there you go. As you can tell, we love Bartlett, and we love the folks at Bartlett. And we're going to start with a couple of folks we'll bring in just a second, and get your tree questions ready. It's been a weird spring, aren't they all? Certainly in Chicago, springs are just.
Well, this one was the reluctant spring.
Yeah. Well, we
suddenly jumped on the trampoline.
We had 2 days of it, although we're having it today, and we had a little bit yesterday. Yeah. So that's okay.
But it was this reluctant. A week and a half ago, I was wearing fleece and boots, and then we had last week the reluctant spring that hit the trampoline.
Checking the furnace to make sure it's going to kick on when it needs to. That ain't good. But we'll have Megan Kasinsky from Bartlett, and of course our old buddy Skeet is going to be with us. Skeet, you might want to turn that camera on at some point. I'm watching in preview. There you go. Okay, we're going to get to you in just a second. I just want to be ready. And then in the 10 o'clock hour, we're talking to Tina Marie Hernandez. She's the executive director of Dive Heart, and if that sounds familiar, it's because we play their public service announcements on this show. Life is an ocean. You probably know that song. Yeah, that song, it becomes an earworm to you, and it does to me. Yeah. We might play a little bit of it. And they've
you put up the link on YouTube. I watched the entire song. It's actually much longer.
It is. I know. I cut it down. Well, I can't run a 3-minute song every time I want to do a public service announcement. No, I cut it down to a minute so that we can fit it into the show at a respectable time. But Tina Marie Hernandez is executive director, and Dive Heart is having a documentary premiere this week on the 18th. So we're going to talk all about that and how that happened, and we're going to show the film trailer. And you might want to go. There are still tickets available to the premiere, and so I'm going to make you hang around to find out how to get those tickets. Although you all know that if you go to my blog post, you'll see all of that. Oh, okay. I'll tell you that it's Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. at the Classic Cinemas Tivoli Theater in Downers Grove. Just saying.
Illinois.
Yeah. Well, Kansas. Downers Grove, Kansas.
Well, not everybody listening is in the Chicago area.
But most of the people listening know Downers Grove. It's a suburb of, yes, you're right. It's a suburb of Chicago. So that will be Wednesday at 6:30, and that information is on my blog post. And then Peggy and I will talk about a few other environmental matters as we usually do on the show.
And talk about the plant behind Mike. Talk about
my
poster behind you. Well, you got to wait till after 10:30 for all
my
that.
hippeastrum, which is about to bloom, otherwise known as an amaryllis. All right, so let's get to our folks. And Skeet, yep, he's turned on his camera. There he is in the lower right. That's our buddy Skeet from Bartlett Tree Experts. But on the left is somebody who's not been on the show before. And Megan, I'm going to ask you.
She has, but not in person.
No, not in person. You've seen Megan. Megan, I'm asking you to tilt down just a little bit more, if you can do that, if you don't mind. Yeah, everybody wants to show their ceilings. I don't understand that. It's a weird thing. In fact, I can even do that. I can tilt down a little bit here too.
And I can't, except when we go to just the photo of the two of us. Then you're like,
I know. Well, we have to adjust every time we change the screens here, but that's showbiz. Megan Kasinsky is also with Bartlett Tree Experts, as Peggy alluded to. You've seen her if you watch this show, because we play several of the Bartlett commercials that highlight you. You're kind of a rock star when it comes to Bartlett. And Megan is an ISA, which stands for International Society of Arborists. She's a certified arborist, certified tree care safety professional, a PennDel ISA board member. Now, PennDel, for those of you in the Midwest who have no idea what PennDel, it stands for Pennsylvania and Delaware, because she's out east. And an advocate for women in arboriculture. And I have to say something, Megan, which you've probably noticed too, because I'm sure you write the word arboriculture or arboriculture, however you want to pronounce it. And programs like Word and Facebook do not recognize it as a word. They put the squiggly little red line under it. I'm thinking, come on, are we in the 21st century or what? Surely you should know what arboriculture is. Have you noticed that too, Megan?
I have. I think a lot of the words that I write throughout my day are not registered by the normal dictionary. I mean, we start getting into the different diseases we write about. Yeah. Phytophthora never picks up on
Phytophthora. Well, I can almost understand.
Don't even try to voice text on your phone. Forget voice texting. I'm sure that just would take those words and mangle them.
So
it does not work.
Yeah, but that's okay. I don't forgive them, but I just say that those folks should get up, because I write the word arborist a lot, and it gets the red squiggly line every single time. But it doesn't matter, because there are people who are arborists, and some of them are women, which, as I wrote on the Facebook post, we want to put an end to the phrase, let's get a tree guy to look at your tree. Well, how about a tree gal? And like Megan Kasinsky. And, it's interesting because you sent me some stuff, some photos. And if you want to talk about tree gals, here you go. Here's a bunch of them, including you. Where was that taken, Megan?
So this was at the Women in Arboriculture conference that Bartlett was putting on. We've paused it since the pandemic. But previously, the company annually was bringing all of the women from groundsperson, arborist climbers, arborist crew leaders, arborist representatives, all of the women that work in the diagnostic labs, our PhD staff, and bringing all of us together for a couple of days of some training, some learning, some networking. And it was a really cool conference. So we switched over to Zoom calls the past couple of years, trying to keep that community together. But that was the last time that we were down at the research lab in Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was a great week.
It is a great place to go. Peggy and I have been fortunate enough to go down to the research lab. I wouldn't mind going again. Although I haven't flown in a number of years right now.
I think that's the last time I flew was that trip.
I think that might have been the last time I
That was
flew as well.
2019. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we should turn to Skeet because Skeet, you and Megan, I have to, full disclosure, Skeet is the one who set this up. He said, you got to have Megan on the show. It's because you guys know each other. You guys have worked together.
Yes, I've been very, very fortunate to work with Megan. It's been a fun mentor-mentee, both sides. As you said, your old buddy Skeet. Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate that.
And getting older by the day, too. Yeah.
Exactly. Trying to put the hat on to cut down on the glare of the bald head. So thank you. Yes, Megan has been very helpful to me, and her energy and what she brings, and her patience with me as the old guy trying to learn the computer, and her patience has been very, very appreciated, and I can help her as it's been a fun seeing where Megan, when I first met, was in school and now is an arborist rep. Boy, I mean, she's just doing some great things in a short amount of time and really focusing on people and the love for trees and taking care of trees. And so she brings me a lot of energy too. So yes, it's been a fun relationship to teammates growing together, working within the same company. And as Megan said, it's a lot of Zoom calls, it's a lot of phone calls, it's a lot of emails back and forth.
And comparing issues that you find in your parts of the country, and we're in different parts of the country. Skeet is out of the Bolingbrook office of Bartlett, a suburb of, I was going to say Detroit. Where did that come from? That's my old past, like my brain misfiring. I'm from Detroit, so just so you know, it's a suburb of Chicago. And Megan, which office are you out of?
So I was in the Bala Cynwyd, Pennsylvania office, which is right outside of Philadelphia, and just recently transferred about 2 months ago up to the Guilford, Connecticut office. So working back on the shoreline.
Okay, and I think folks here in Chicago, I still have a hard time, and I understand the geography of the East, but the states are all so close together that you travel a lot between the various states, and you say you were working in Pennsylvania, you work in Delaware, you work in Connecticut. You're from Connecticut, so I imagine it's nice to be back in your home state.
Yeah, back nice and close to my parents, which they love.
Of course, they'll get over it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, from Philadelphia to where I am now is about 3.5 hours. So it's definitely a doable distance to kind of go back and forth. But the changes that we see in plants can still be a lot different, even though the East Coast does feel really close together.
That's a really good point. I want to get into that in a second, just how plants can change over the course of a few miles.
And as Megan mentioned, by the shore versus inland.
Right. That makes a huge difference too, doesn't it, Megan?
Yeah, a lot of salt damage that we deal with. A lot of wind off Long Island Sound, and once you start getting up into Cape Cod, which has a lot of islands off the coast, then you get a lot of that Cape winds too. So each area can be really different as you move through New England, which makes it exciting and challenging as an arborist to try to mitigate new issues on a daily basis, because everything's constantly changing, it feels like, around here.
That's really interesting. It's not something we think about in the Midwest. When we think of salt damage in the Midwest, it's from sidewalks and streets, basically. But in the along the ocean, it can be from, I guess, wind blowing surf inland and affecting the trees that rate. Right, Megan?
Yeah, and we have both. So if we do have a heavy winter, we're going to see a lot of the salt damage along the road, along the edges of driveways. But if you do have a house that's right on the water and you've got these high winds coming off, get some hurricanes during the late summer,
Nor'easters.
It can cause a lot of damage to the foliage.
Yeah. Well, okay, question, and I was going to get into how you got going in this, but we're on the salt question, and I know it's the wrong season to talk about this because in the Midwest, we're not going to have to worry about this for another 9 months. But in the East and in the Midwest, what do you tell people about salt damage to trees? Is there a way to mitigate the salt damage to a tree? Megan, let's start with you.
Not really. I mean, we can definitely control how much salt is getting into the root system, and we have programs that can help flush the salt out of the soil, so kind of drop those sodium levels. But when you get it coming onto the foliage, it makes for quite a challenge. So in a lot of cases, and Mike, we talked about this a couple of days ago, right tree, right place, we need to look towards plant material that's going to be hardy against salt damage, and kind of build up a barrier, or have some plant material that is tolerant to some salt spray. Put those in areas that's going to see those winds coming off, and then we can start getting to more other ornamentals in areas that are maybe protected by the house a bit, a little bit further past where that property line meets the ocean. But right alongside, we need to think about what plant material we're putting there and if it's going to be successful in that area.
And Skeet, I would ask you the same question. What do you tell people about salt damage?
Well, it's interesting, Mike. It's, as you said, it's something we don't have to worry about for a few months, and yet we're seeing the results of it now. So we really do need to worry about it sooner than later, so we can try some preventative treatments and think about the right tree in the right spot, as Megan was speaking about, and also what we can do for restoration of that area prior to winter, or is just an area that's a no plant zone. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to put a plant in that area. So it's something we work with and are challenged with 12 months of the year. As much as plants and trees are great, I mean, there's some senior centers and there's some places where just mobility and access is critical.
Give me an example where you would tell somebody not to put a tree.
Sarcastically, we sometimes say those parking lot dead islands, those dead zones.
Right in the middle of a parking lot.
Yeah, those are just something that looks pretty when they're first put in, and it's a slow, painful death for the trees, and it's just a real bummer. And then trying to put a new tree back in there just may not make sense. We're fortunate to have many clients that are senior housing and rehabilitation areas, and those front entrances need to be clear and available, and that's just a heavy salt zone area. So those are the areas just let's not even think about that, or that's some alternatives.
So Skeet, Megan, I was going to ask how it's May, leaves are starting to come out. How can we tell if we have salt damage on our trees?
Or I would say any other kind of winter damage. We're at the point where.
What are we seeing now that says winter damage?
Well, one way to kind of get a jump start on everything is to take a soil sample early in the season and start to see if there are any changes in pH or if there's high sodium levels from any sort of salt runoff. So that's a really good starting point. Try to get a baseline for what you're working with in the season.
One of the things that I've heard people talk about, and Skeet, I'm sure you've seen this. I don't know, Mega, if you've encountered this. You get a slow spring. And maybe it's cool, and who knows what else.
Like Chicago.
Yeah, like Chicago. And there are people who say, oh, that tree is dead, so I'm going to cut it down because it hasn't leafed out. Or that shrub is dead. I'm taking it out. And they just don't give it enough time. Skeet, I'm sure you've seen that before.
We see it on a regular basis. It's a frustration. It's a bummer. And patience, young Jedi. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to leaf out. Um, we have a beech tree in our yard, and we have a beech tree at our office, and they're going to be one of the last to leaf out. The ash trees now are slowly pushing out. Not all trees are going to push out at the same rate and push new leaves, and that's just again having a certified arborist as part of your green team, along with a landscaper, homeowner, boards, maintenance teams, having that certified arborist along with. That's going to be your source of a resource to help you.
Have you seen this as well, Megan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
I don't know if you want me to elaborate more.
How do you talk to a homeowner who's, how do you educate a homeowner on having the patience for the tree through the different seasons?
I think it's really good to build trust with your clients when you're on their property often, or if you're meeting with a new client. I met with a new client on Friday who said that their tree was dead and they wanted to take it down. It was a honey locust, just hadn't pushed out yet. And so just kind of walking them through what to expect with that tree, and especially new homeowners coming onto properties don't know what to expect season by season. So talking them through the stages of what they should be looking for and what could be an abnormal sign of stress or decline versus, what's normal for that plant per each season. And we've definitely had a weird spring across the country. Yeah. So I think as people are looking at their properties, everyone's home a lot more now. They're starting to kind of notice some changes and see what's abnormal and see what's not. So just kind of walking them through what to expect as our climate progresses.
And just because it always did this for the last 3 years doesn't mean it's going to do the same thing this year.
Yeah, everything's going to change very often, especially right now. I think with all the storms that we're seeing, especially on the East Coast, all the climate fluctuations. I know you guys just went through a nice heat wave to warm up your spring. So all these unexpected changes, we might not see the trees react immediately. It might take some time. Like, Skeet was saying with salt damage, we're going to see those damages now, and we need to prepare for the winter, not the other way around.
So you didn't see this, you didn't have the same heat out east that we had here in the central part of the country.
No, it's warming up here in Connecticut. We've been dealing with a lot of fog the past couple of days. So just kind of this gray mist has been hovering over, waiting for the sun to come out. I hope it comes out today. It's supposed to help my dad get the boat in the water. Some sunny skies.
Yeah.
So, Skeet, we got a couple of minutes here before we need to break. So what are you telling folks who experienced this kind of wet, cool spring, and then suddenly we get blasted with 5 days of 4 days of 90-degree temperatures or close to 90-degree temperatures? What do you and dryness? Peggy and I were talking about how we looked in our yard and we saw places where the soil started to crack already, and that seems nuts because all we got was rain for
we had 3 or 4 inches of rain.
Yeah.
And I was more concerned about our crews than I were about the trees. When you work outside all the time and your body goes through a fluctuation of 40 degrees, and as Peggy was talking about with flannels and boots, and we're talking about possible hypothermia, and just working with teammates, and these are people outside working, and so we go from 40-degree weather up to that 95-degree weather. So we go from training for hypothermia to, boy, make sure we have enough water out there. We have ice so trees are important. That's what we love to do. We're scientific tree care, and we have fantastic crews that are out there doing the work. So it was first taking care of our crews to make sure they were safe. Safety above all else is our standard for practice. And then as far as the trees go, we're going to see some brown margins. We're going to see some deformed leaves. We're going to see some trees pushing out quicker than others. And we're going to get some rain, hopefully this afternoon. We're going to get rain next week. So the tree should be fine. I sent you some pictures of some annuals and perennials that I have wilted real quickly. And they need water on a more consistent basis. So I'm not as concerned about the trees. That's our wonderful home in our backyard, and
those are your wilting pansies.
Yeah.
Who didn't water the flowers?
Right.
Oh, here's a better shot. Look at this. Yikes.
Yes. And hopefully lovely Laura, my wife, is not watching because my phone will be beeping real quick.
Well, wait a second. What you can say to her is, "Oh, look, honey, I added some water and they perked right back up."
Well, actually, she added the water because
and
she was very diligent about
photos
this.
of the droopy plants while she added the water. Yes.
Yes. So we're having fun here, and that's not any special Bartlett fertilizer, and that's not any stimulators or that's called water. I mean, we don't have to use chemicals. We don't have to get crazy. With the right plant in the right spot and being properly taken care of, good things can happen. So
but with trees, I
shrubs.
don't and shrubs. Well, I was going to say trees though. 4 days of dryness is not going to be. It's not going to affect a tree as much as it might an annual, as you saw there, or even a perennial, because when you're dealing with trees, you're dealing with the longer stretch of time, sometimes
and
years.
More reserves, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. But I like that idea that you just brought up, Skeet, about how you have to pay attention to your crews and what they're going through. We'll talk a little bit about that because, Megan, I know you've worked with different crews as well, and I want to talk about where women fit into this and your training and what you learned as you came up through the ranks. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We're talking to Megan Kasinsky and Skeet from Bartlett Tree Experts, and we'll return in just a couple of minutes.
I was pretty well considered an outlier in nuts. And today, the nursery with the kids and everybody involved is still considered groundbreaking in the sense that we do it just different. Over in a possibility place in 1978. By 1982, we were strictly into natives and have been ever since.
Possibility Place Nursery grows more trees, shrubs, and perennials than I can count. Several hundred species, from large shade trees to very small perennial plants.
There is a native plant for every place in your yard. From trees to shrubs to flowers and grasses. They flower just as pretty. They flower on time. They bring in butterflies. They make the yard more dynamic. And every time you do a planting is an opportunity to add a native or to integrate a native into your landscape and make it richer.
From spring seed and soil treatments to summer foliar feeding to fall stubble digesters, Blazing Star provides microbial tools from tiny biologicals for natural and organic farmers. They have solutions for home gardeners too. And Blazing Star also offers agroecological education and consulting, especially for permaculture work in zones 4 and 5. Learn more about these great folks and great techniques at blazing-star.com.
There was once a land where the weather was very, very strange. There were awful heat waves in some parts, and in others, terrible storms and floods. Scientists said it was being caused by too much CO2, which went up into the sky when the grown-ups used energy. They said the CO2 was getting dangerous. Its effects were happening faster than they had thought. Some places could even disappear under the sea, and it was the children of the land who'd have to live with the horrible consequences. The grown-ups realized they had to do something. They discovered that over 40% of the CO2 was coming from ordinary everyday things like keeping houses warm and driving cars, which meant if they made less CO2, maybe they could save the land for the children.
Is there a happy ending?
It's up to us how the story ends. See what you can do. Search online for ACT on CO2.
Well, I'm sure glad my dad didn't read that to me at night. I wouldn't have ever slept. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Although it's important to let kids know what's going on in the real world. We're talking to yes, Peggy.
No, go ahead. I'm one sentence ahead of you. I was going to say to everyone who's watching, please post your tree questions and your shrub questions for Megan and Skeet, and we'll try to get to them.
Absolutely. But I want to get back to something that Skeet brought up, which is the crews that are on the Bartlett.
The tree cruise, not the big boat, the tree cruise.
What?
You said the cruise. And I'm
cruise.
Like, well, go on a cruise? Wait a minute.
Okay. All right. If anybody's going in that direction, fine. See ya. Go have a cruise. But yes, the CREWS at not just Bartlett, but any tree care company.
Or landscaping crews. Yeah.
Right. It's important that you can't make your trees healthy if the people who are working on them are not healthy themselves. And Megan, you're nodding. So what kind of training do you have? How do you look out for each other's backs?
A lot goes into it. Bartlett is so great in that they provide a really good safety structure for us to kind of follow. So we have our daily safety meetings. We have meetings with our individual crews on each job site. On a monthly basis, we go over a special topic. So whether it's slips, trips, and falls or proper lifting procedures, we go through a little bit more in-depth training quizzes. We have our local office safety coordinators that help keep us on track as well. And then a lot with the individual reps and the crews, just keeping an eye on one another, active caring, looking out for each other. And each day changes so much in what we do, every project that we work on, every condition that we work in. So having those daily and throughout the day frequent check-ins is really important for the way that we look after each other.
Yeah. Let me pop this up. Is that you by any chance?
That is me. Yeah, that was when I was working in Ballackinwood. I had a great crew to teach me and a good group of photographers as well. So they've captured some cool shots.
I was going to say, when you were growing up, did you climb trees? Were you, climbing trees or climbing rocks or things like that? Or was this new when you got into arboriculture and started working for Bartlett in college?
This is a new thing. Yeah. So growing up, I grew up with an older brother and did not run around in the dirt, was not the kid that was, pulling worms out and climbing around trees like I do now. So it's been quite a change, and it's been really fun to explore a totally different side of the world and be able to appreciate trees the way that I can now.
And even though this looks a little harrowing, I mean, it looks like you're just standing on that branch without any protection there, any harnessing, but you are indeed protected up there, are you not?
Yes, absolutely. I have my saddle on, which attaches to my hips and my legs, connects to a rope that is around a strong union point in the tree. And most of my weight is going to go into that union point. It looks so delicate and balanced, one, because it's a picture, but two, because I don't have that much weight in the branch. Most of my weight is in my climbing system. We don't want to add stress to the branches that we're climbing on. You start to get into some of the smaller branches and you might crack a few. So we keep all of our weight in our system as much as possible.
Okay. What are we looking at here?
This is us practicing aerial rescue. So we're kind of talking about the safety programs that we have at Bartlett. One that we practice frequently is aerial rescue. So If something were to go wrong in a tree, we want to know that we're competent in our ability to ascend the tree, secure the person that may have suffered an injury, and safely lower them to the ground. So this is my crew leader. He's now the division trainer of our Mid-Atlantic area. So he travels around to crews and does a lot of training like this. And so we were practicing here on how I could safely lower him to the ground while we were climbing in a tree.
As an arborist representative in year one, do you still go up in the trees? I know that Skeet, you've
been grounded.
Yeah, you pretty much stopped doing that a while ago. Probably a good thing, unless you really want to. But Megan, are you still climbing trees?
Your mic's off, Skeet.
Thank you, Peggy. I'd be the victim for Megan to practice aerial rescue. Yes. So I like Megan's point of view. I've been grounded.
I think it's probably because you're pretty good at organizing your crews, Skeet. So your services are much more needed on the ground. But I wanted to ask Megan, are you still going up there? Do you still climb much?
Not as much as I'd like to. I miss it a lot, having transitioned out of production a couple years ago. But I do try to stay involved on the weekends when the weather gets nice, especially in my old office in Valley Kenwood. We would set up recreational climbs, rec climbs. So a couple of us would get together on a weekend and swing around for a couple of hours, go to lunch. And right now I'm in the process of setting up a women's climb one weekend coming up this season, try to get the women in my new area in Connecticut, parts of Massachusetts, and maybe back down to some of my old offices together, just to kind of network, practice some climbing techniques, learn from each other a little bit more. So that's one thing that I'll do, but not on a regular basis, unfortunately.
So for someone who's in college or maybe out of college or transitioning careers and wants to become, a production person, what's the process? I mean, you need to know these skills. You just show up and they teach you. How does it work? Like you said, you didn't have that background.
Yeah, I started in college with climbing. I had a professor that pushed me into his climbing lab. Just 3 hours a week that we'd learn how to climb. And the following semester, I tried a production chainsaw class. So I learned how to use a chainsaw. But what I love about Bartlett and what I love about this industry is that you don't need to have a formal college education. You don't need to have formal training to start getting involved with the industry. Especially at Bartlett, we have so many training programs in place that walk you through each step of what you need to learn as you progress. So you start at the bottom and you work your way up. So, a lot of the times if we're doing interviews with new employees, what we're looking for is the willingness to learn and, being able to put in some hard work and want to progress your career, because that's really all you need to become a successful arborist.
And we did say that this program is about women in arboriculture. So what do you find different? What's challenging about that? I imagine there are, and you mentioned it in one of the spots that we run on the show, that there are still barriers. What do you, and I know that Bartlett is encouraging to have you do that, but I'll bet you still run into people who look at you askance and they say, well, where's the tree guy? Have you had that happen?
Yeah, I have run into that. I think sometimes too, being a young arborist and taking over for a more tenured arborist can also play a role in a profession. So sometimes it's difficult to kind of differentiate, when someone asks for your credentials or what your background is in education. Sometimes that's just being a young arborist as well. But yeah, I mean, the barriers that I've faced and that I know other women have faced are definitely dwindling as time goes on. And I think that's really important to note. A lot of the women that were in the industry 30, 40 years ago have paved the way for my generation of arborists and the next generation to come, which, is really cool.
Speaking of really cool, not everyone has a pink chainsaw. This is your Husqvarna. It's kind of legendary among. Oh no! Wait a second. Let's go back here. Look who's you've got your visual aid there. So let me go in on that here. Show us your chainsaw there.
Yeah, this is my pink chainsaw. I got to switch the bar out, some of the bar on it, and it's definitely not as pretty as the picture anymore from when I first got it. Definitely put some work into it. My cousin got this for me when I first started at Bartlett. He works at the research lab in Charlotte. And when I came aboard, he tracked down a pink chainsaw. And this was my ground saw for most of the time that I worked in production. And I absolutely loved it. The crews loved it. I have now gotten into the habit of keeping it under lock and key so that none of the other crews take it out. It's a favorite saw of the women and the tree guys that are
Why
out
is
there.
that? Why is that?
It has, you can put an 18 or a 20-inch bar on it, which is a pretty good length for just moving through basic groundwork. So if you're doing a medium to large size removal, this is pretty good to use. I think it's really well balanced as well. So when you get the bar on there and the motors in the back, this is obviously where most of the weight is, but having a bar on there kind of balances it. It was just really easy to use, and it was a great saw.
And there you are. Okay, the first question I have to ask when I saw this is that why are you cutting a mature tree? What was the story behind this?
Gosh, I don't totally remember. I know I was working for my manager, Tom. I think it was in decline. This was probably about 4 years ago at this point. So I can't remember everyone, but it was hanging over a roadway, I think, too, kind of in a bad location.
Well, yeah, you mentioned right tree, right place, and part of the thing is putting trees where they're not going to cause damage to individuals. And here's a job well done. There, I see you don't have the pink chainsaw there.
No. Sometimes you gotta bump up. I actually have a very difficult time holding that one, but managed to get it on its side. That's actually at the
very long bar on that one.
Yeah. So that picture is from the National Arboretum in Washington, D.C., and that tree was dead. So we had to take it down. As you know, it's a really populated area, public area, so want to make sure that we have all the safety hazards down around there.
And this looks like it's staged, okay? I mean, that's not real dirt on your face, is it? You use makeup for that, right?
No, it's not even dirt. It's actually pollen from a cherry tree.
Oh my goodness.
So this was early in spring, and the branches were just absolutely covered in pollen, and just got all over my face. That's one of my favorite pictures.
Yeah, and obviously you had safety goggles on there.
Yeah, I think they're in my hand. Just took it off for
Yeah, absolutely.
As you're being photobombed by the guy behind you. Yeah.
Yeah, my crew.
Yeah, absolutely. This is how they show their respect for you, by photobombing you from behind. All right, I'm going to ask a quick question of both Megan and Skeet about chainsaws. Because we don't talk about that a lot on the show, but individuals, homeowners, they want the power. They want to have their chainsaw. What is the first thing you would tell them? Skeet, let's start with you. What's the first thing you're going to tell somebody who decides they must have a chainsaw and they must use it on their property?
Well, I'm going to back up and say probably the number one reason people wanted to use Megan's chainsaw is because she took care of it so well, and it was sharp and it was easy to start and ready to go. So that's number one. And then there's so many classes out there. We talked about arboriculture. Joliet Junior College has a great program for to be an arborist in arboricultural classes. We can tell you all kinds of scary stories about what chainsaws can do, and they are a very dangerous tool without the proper training. and you need to be properly trained. It does scare me to see chainsaws on a shelf and people go home, take them home, maybe read a direction, maybe not, and use them. Proper training is critical. And I know there's some chainsaw dealers out there that have training that goes with buying a chainsaw. And if you're not trained in it, don't do it.
All right, Megan, what would you say?
I would probably start with, are you sure you want to do this by yourself? But I stress the proper PPE if a homeowner is going to do it. Chainsaw chaps, chainsaw pants, eye protection, hearing protection, and a helmet. And then just talking about, it is a dangerous piece of equipment that we use, and you need to know a lot about it in order to respect it and use it properly. So, it's tough seeing a lot of the injuries that happen in the industry. I think it can put a bad name on the industry being so dangerous because of how many accidents can happen with untrained people using this type of equipment. But just kind of giving a couple warnings and making sure that they're going to have some protective measures in place before they start using that equipment.
Okay. And speaking of chainsaws and crews, CREWS, do you remember where this photo was taken?
Yeah, that's at our office.
Whoa, we lost you. We lost your audio all of a sudden.
This is at our office in Ballackinwood, and this was a chainsaw skills training. So a couple months after I started, we got a group of newer employees together, brought some logs back to the office and practiced, making notches, making bore cuts, making back cuts, learning those skills in, not on a property, so we could start to practice them and hone those skills before we took them into different circumstances.
Yeah. And you send a lot of photos where there's a lot of people. And it's good to know that there are so many people behind the scenes who are helping to keep your trees healthy.
Yeah, we have some pretty incredible crews at Bartlett, and a lot of them have become close friends, are mentors, mentees. So, we've got Buddy Study in the corner there, hanging out at the party, the little dog. So we've got some really incredible people at this company.
And one more of the women of Bartlett. I like this. I like the attitude. Stay away from the orange cones. Skeet, you sent me that one.
That came from Constance out in Colorado. Huge kudos to Constance and her team. They're knocking it out there. They're doing a fantastic job. And Constance again is another mentor, mentee. Just having some great teammates all around the nation. I mean, Bartlett has over 150 offices throughout the United States. It's an international company, also into Canada, Ireland, England, and Constance is part of the Women in Arboriculture team, Constance has helped me tremendously, and again, her team is just really making a difference out in Colorado.
And of course, this is at the research labs in North Carolina, right?
Yeah, that's at I think the first women's meeting that we ever did.
Yeah. All right. Before we run out of time here, Skeet sent me some stuff that I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That you all should. Yes, Peggy, were you going to jump in
I was
there?
going to say, and if we've got time to just talk about a couple of spring tree things too. But
the first is volcano mulching, and I don't know why we have to say this every single show.
Wow, that's beyond volcano mulching.
I know. Yeah. It's like it says instead of saying harmful, it should say tragic. I think where those are, it almost doesn't look real. Can somebody be that dumb to put the volcano mulching like that? But please don't pile the mulch up against the tree. And Megan, why don't folks want to pile their mulch up against a tree?
It can cause a ton of different root and stem issues. Pile a lot of mulch there. It's going to trap moisture. It's also going to encourage a lot of trees to grow their roots around their trunks and create girdling roots, which can kill a tree long term. So it is not a good idea. We want to see that area where the trunk meets the root system. We call it the root flare. And that should be what's visible right before the roots start in the ground.
Right. If you can't see the tree flaring out at the bottom, it's too deep. It's buried in your mulch. All right, this is great, Skeet. I love this. If you can't read what each of those says, if you look at the upper left, it says how my friends think it should look. The middle in the top is how my parents think it should look. Then how my neighbors think it should look. Then how society thinks it should look. How I thought it should look, and then the lower right, how it should look. And that is, every one of them is volcano mulched except the very last one on the right. That's how it should look. Now, is this real, Skeet?
Yes. Yeah, a client sent that to me. Yes.
I want billboards like that in Chicago. How do we do that? I can't even imagine having a billboard that says "To mulch of a good thing, save money, save trees, don't volcano mulch," and it's a billboard on top of a building. There, I'm impressed by that. That's
why I saved it, and that's why it goes on my mulching file.
All right, and here's something else you sent to me that I was stunned by, Skeet. So explain that. I've got two photos. This is a far photo, and then there's a close-up. So what are we looking at here, Skeet?
Well, when you say I stun you, you always got me scared of what picture's going next.
No, it's a good thing. I think you know.
This is the critter photo.
This is a critter photo.
I don't remember what I sent you, so thanks. That is a HOA homeowner association common ground, and that is a large retention pond and a cottonwood tree, multi-stem, dual stem, and at the base of the tree, you're going to see something that gets very exciting really quick, and that's beaver damage.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And when people ask, why do we have a certified arborist as part of our HOA and can't the landscaper do anything? Well, the beaver started that, and you can see the ground up chips. And one of our technicians found that while they were out there treating trees. Wow. And sent me those pictures. Those are not from me. Those are from our technician that care about the trees and knew this is potentially dangerous to residents. And you look where that one lead, if that one lead fails, where is that one lead going to go? And that's common ground.
Does the whole tree need to come out? Does the whole tree come out, or just that lead?
I'm sorry, Peggy. Just a one lead would come out at this point, and then a reevaluation. We've got included bark in there. It's not the most ideal situation, though the other lead would go towards the water. That is something that is a need to do. That is not a let's think about this in the future.
That is just I saw that, and it just, as I said, it blew me away. The idea that a beaver can do that. I kind of assumed that beavers work on smaller diameter trees, smaller caliber. But and one of our viewers just said, good dental work. That'll you got to have good dental work to chew through like that. I was just amazed. Now, Megan, I guess I'll ask you, have you seen that kind of damage out east? I would think you have.
I have not, actually. Not a lot of water where I was in Philadelphia. So we didn't run into any beavers. I have heard that there is beaver damage up in a lot of areas in Connecticut, but I haven't personally seen it yet.
I have a feeling you will. All right, Peggy, was there something you wanted to bring up before we get out of here?
Oh, I was just going to ask, but it's probably not a lot of time here because we've had all the rain and the heat and the warmth. What can we expect on trees and shrubs? Galls, fungus? What are we going to be seeing?
Good question. We're going to see some tattered leaves, which are the brown margins are going to look a little burnt as they first started to emerge, and they haven't hardened off yet. They're a little tender, so we're going to see a lot of deformed leaves. The bigger challenge is with the heat that's come up. You know, a few weeks ago we talked about growing degree days.
Mm-hmm.
And so the pest and disease we measure by growing degree days. That's been very accelerated over the last 4-5 days with the heat. So our plant health care crews are going to be, it's just getting a little exciting to get on out there and get the right timing, to get the applications done. There was a long Saturday yesterday with the crews work, and so kudos to them to take care of our clients at the right time of the year, and that's what we're committed to doing.
And for folks who don't know, when we're talking growing degree days, it's the accumulated degrees over the course of a year, which determine when insects appear, when various. Does that account for diseases as well?
Correct. Yeah. You're right on it, Mike.
Okay. And what I would suspect, given the rain and the coolness we had for such a long time, is that we're going to see some anthracnose, because I have a hybrid elm out front that gets it like clockwork every year. I would love to girdle that tree, but shh, don't tell the city. But I'm not going to. But every year, it's the anthracnose is a fungal disease. It happens on the leaves. The leaves curl up. It doesn't kill the tree. It's unsightly, and then everything falls down. And then I got to clean all that up. And sometimes the tree will re-leaf, but it gets it every year. It's like those crab apples that people have in their backyard. They get apple scab. And I always tell people that there's a pruning technique that will get rid of your apple scab. One cut. And we get Megan out there with her pink Husqvarna. We could take care of that crab apple rather than have to treat it every year for apple scab. But it's my and people think I'm kidding. With the advances made with crab apples that are disease resistant, and there's so many varieties now, and they grow so fast. In 5 years, if you cut down your crab this year, you put in a disease-resistant variety, in 5 years, you're going to say, what took me so long to do that? That has been my experience with it. Now, I know Grandma planted the crab, and you don't want to kill the crab that Grandma planted. I get that, but Grandma had that.
That's your pruning technique for calorie pears too, right?
Yeah, one cut. I have to tell you, I was out driving on the south side of Chicago.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere, and I was watching them in the forest preserves and mainly along the freeway side of the roads. Calorie pears were blooming everywhere, and I know they weren't planted there. Please don't buy a calorie pear.
There's a couple of areas I've passed where it's someone's property, but it's empty, and it's just this tree, that tree, and then calorie pears throughout. Little small ones, and they're all blooming like crazy.
Are you seeing that on the East Coast as well, Megan?
Yeah, we have a lot of pears here. A couple streets over from my apartment, there is a whole street line of calorie pears. So seeing them bloom. But I think South Carolina actually just outlawed the planting of pears.
I believe they did. I think you're right. And other states will follow suit. I mean, it's like in some states you can't plant a butterfly bush because it'll take over. I think New Zealand has banned butterfly bush because it's at that warm, moist climate, and they love it. If you go to London, I went to London 15 years ago and saw butterfly bushes growing out the cracks of buildings, 8 feet off the ground, and you would go, oh, that's a plant that needs to be addressed here. Okay, I get it. All right, well, listen, Skeet and Megan, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really, really appreciate it. Megan, you got any final words before we let you go? I know Skeet's he's going to be back here at some point, but I was just wondering if you have anything you'd like to say.
No, I had a great time today. Thanks so much for having me. I'd love to come back again and keep expanding on some of the topics. But, most importantly, if there's any women interested in the industry that are listening, or any young kids getting out of college, getting out of high school that are interested, just start doing it, start learning, and your career can go some pretty cool places.
Right. And of course, we should mention that you can go to bartlett.com. If you want more information or if you need tree care for your yard. And there are 4 locations in the Chicago area, but as Skeet mentioned, they're all over the country, in a lot of different areas of the country and internationally, and expanding all the time. So Megan Kasinsky, Skeet, thank you guys both for being on the show. You have a wonderful Sunday. Let's hope we get our temperatures back kind of reasonably normal. 70s. I'd like to see, wouldn't that be nice to just see some 70s for a while? It'd be cool.
Skeet, can you order that up for Mike, please, Skeet?
I will put on my things to do list. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we don't have DeMaio here today, so you're going to have to take care of that. All right, both of you guys, have a great Sunday, and I hope we talk real soon. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We're talking about Dive Heart when we come back, so stick around.
Hi, I'm Vic Nakashima with Bartlett Tree Experts, and I want to talk to you about ticks and what you can do about them. Now imagine you're getting ready to go for a nice hike in the woods. If you're concerned about encountering ticks, then you can take measures of personal protection. Things like clothing, repellent, and thorough checks afterwards. But let's say you're at your home, in your own yard, in your very own space. If you're concerned about encountering ticks here, well, there's a bit more that you can do. You can take an integrated approach, and we can help. So what do I mean by an integrated approach? It means focusing on all the ways you can make your landscape a far less favorable habitat for ticks. A good place to start is to look at your mouse and rodent population. Stacked firewood and brush piles are typical nesting areas for mice, and it is here that a tick in its early stages of life will attempt to find a host. In fact, it is from mice that the bacterium that causes Lyme disease is transmitted to the deer tick. So brush piles should be removed, and if possible, firewood should be stacked in a different location from where you spend a lot of your time in your yard. Ticks crawl up on high vegetation like tall grasses or the borders of a wood's edge, and there they wait for a person or a pet to brush up against them. To keep this from happening, we can prune these low branches to raise the canopy and remove some of the understory brush. We can also lay wood chips or mulch along this border to create a tick barrier. Another effective way we can help control your tick population is by applying treatments directly to areas where they are likely to be found, and to those areas where you, your family, and pets are most likely to come in contact with them. Deer are also a critical component of the Lyme disease life cycle, both as a physical carrier of ticks and as hosts of the pathogen. Therefore, an integral part of tick management is deer management, which is also a service we can provide. So if you're concerned about ticks in your landscape, allow us to provide you with tick management techniques that really work.
Welcome to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio with just a soupçon of humor. Or is that a dash? Brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com. Here they are again, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
All I need is good food to eat and make me healthy, wealthy, wide awake. Lettuce, tomatoes, root bacon. What about those sweet potatoes? All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good tools to make me music, porches, lawn serene. Give me all that I can take.
And welcome back. Whoop, let's adjust that screen. Yeah, we're all
headroom there.
Headroom. Whoop. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. You can see in the center of our screen, Tina Marie Hernandez. She is the executive director of diveheart.org. Tina Marie, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Welcome
Hi,
back.
Peggy.
Hi. We last
Thank-
saw you, if my records are correct, the first day of summer in 2020.
I know, right? It's 2 years.
It
You guys
has.
look great. We all survived.
Kinda, yeah. No, we're all doing the best we can, to get by here. And um, we we had you on the first time because this was just before the pandemic. I mean, literally a week or two before everything got shut down.
February 29th,
Is
2020.
is when we were at the that was the where was that? Columbia College.
Columbia College in Chicago.
Right.
Right.
It was a green event, film event.
Right. And we had a table there. Peggy and I had a table there. You had a table there. And Jim Elliott, who is the founder of Dive Heart, who I worked with at Gargantua Radio down the dial, sometimes known as WGN. The place where there's like $20 bills on the floor when you walk in. You just scoop them up. And But he and I had worked there, like 25 years ago.
A while ago.
Yeah,
Right.
a long time ago. And we got to talking. He said, you need to know about my organization. And I said, well, what is it? And he said, well, it's a volunteer organization that helps build confidence and independence in disabled people by teaching them how to scuba dive. I'm like, wow, that sounds pretty cool. So we brought you guys on the show and talked about it. And in fact, those of you who are watching the show who are regular viewers see the commercial that we play on the show on pretty much on a regular basis here. As a matter of fact, I've got it right here, and you'll know what I'm talking about when you see this.
Life is an ocean, streaming alone, ripples of motion, hitting us all. Yeah.
Dive in, your time to win. Our hearts all in. Let's let the fun begin.
All right, let's let the fun begin. So we play that because it's not necessarily an environmental organization, but it's a great organization, Tina, and we're happy to help out. So now, a couple years. Well, tell us about what's been going on since we had you on the show. It was kind of slow for you guys during the pandemic as well, wasn't it?
It's all perspective. But yeah, we did a lot of land projects because we were not able to do our pool programs during the pandemic. We canceled 200 pool programs and 11 trips that we had planned. 2020 was going to be our biggest year yet. And then the world decided something else.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did instead is we revamped our website, and we redid our media kit, and we did all sorts of projects, and we really reached out to the community. So we were out every weekend at the farmers market in Downers Grove. Yeah. We did everything we could so that people wouldn't forget that we're going to be there when this is all over. And we made true on our promise, and last December we did our first trip to Cozumel after 2 years, exactly almost. And in last September, in October, we started our pool programs again. So we just finished our first season back last week. So our second Cozumel trip was on its way. So I was filling in, doing some of the lead work there.
And you also came up with that theme in the during the pandemic for
the song, yes.
The song, yeah.
We reached out. So one of the great things about Jim's previous life, when he was in the media business, was that he met wonderful, awesome people like yourself. And it's always giving back to us now when we're trying to promote Dive Heart and get the word out for people so that we can help more people than we could ever meet on our own. So we had met someone who was a Grammy-nominated songwriter, and they helped us create that song and the video. So we're very grateful about that.
Well, I have to tell you, it's an earworm. Once you hear it, yeah, it does. Now, of course, I see it all the time because as I'm putting the show together, I'm hearing it over and over again. But it will dive. Speaking of dive, it'll dive right in there and it'll stay in my brain. But it's okay because it's catchy and it's a lot of fun. It's very upbeat. I like it.
Yeah, that was one of the things we asked for. We said we wanted something inspirational because that's what we feel our adaptive divers do for all of us and our buddies. It's about inspiring each other to embrace life, to live the best life that we can, and to help others do the same.
So what is your main, for people who haven't read the blog or gone to your website yet, what is your main mission and who do you work specifically with?
So what we do is we serve people with disabilities, and it's cognitive, physical. We work with them and try and help instill, like you said, my confidence, independence, self-esteem. Some people experience relief of pain, both emotionally and physically. And we offer pool programs to them free of charge, and they can come back as much as they need to or want to. And then we also offer training. So we train people who want to assist others in the water as well as the adaptive divers themselves. We are a training agency since 2014. So our niche certifications are adaptive. So we
When you
train
say
and
training, who do you train? The divers?
so we train the adaptive diver. We will certify an adaptive diver, and the way our certifications go is it's based on the type of team they need, so based on the amount of assistance they might require. And it's nice because it can go, it can increase and decrease. So if you start out and you need more assistance, but maybe as you get to be a better diver, you might need less assistance, we can adjust the certification and the team that you require. Whereas if maybe you have a degenerative condition, you can also go from needing less assistance to more assistance. And then we also train the people who would be with you in the water and how to work with various types of conditions, be able to use the different gear that we might implement to help someone in the water. So we have an adaptive buddy, an advanced adaptive buddy, and then instructor trainer, and so forth. So we do all those types of certifications.
So how do you determine who gets to do this? You said it's free. Is that right?
It is. Well,
okay.
Trips aren't free, but
No.
any pool program is free.
Okay.
And it's
Okay,
really
when
up
you
to
say
the
pool
person.
program, we say pool program. That's different from the trip where you go in diving
Diving in
out
Cozumel.
Cozumel, right?
Correct.
But a pool program, is that where you teach people how to dive?
We call them Dive Heart Scuba experiences because one of the big tenets about Dive Heart is challenge by choice. So we're not looking to sell you anything necessarily. So if you want to come to our pool programs and you have no desire to get certified, you're like, Tina, I love it. I love the experience I have, but I just need to know enough to have enjoyment and relief here in the pool. That's fine with us. If you want to go on a trip or want to get certified, then we'll pair you with an instructor and they can get you certified as an adaptive diver. So it's not quite, yes, you're learning stuff when you're at pool programs, but it's not technically a certified training session, if that makes sense.
Okay, so my question to you then is, if you do the pool programs, what's to keep everybody in the world from coming? You must have some sort of criteria that people need to have to be part of this.
Well, you have to find us.
Yes,
So that's
true.
why we do a lot of this outreach and education is what we call it, because that's really the primary place where we need to let people know this is an opportunity. We definitely right now have more demand than we can use, that we can fulfill. So we're constantly trying. This summer, I am on a quest to get more adaptive buddies trained so that we can really meet more of the demand come the fall when our season starts again. We do kind of a calendar year of a school year because we don't have our own pool yet, but borrow pools. So we
Yeah.
borrow the pool up in Milwaukee at the university, and we borrow a pool down in Oak Lawn at the high school. So we try to get as many pools as we can, sometimes we partner with special rec associations, sometimes we partner with other local community pools, but then we have to get the staff to help the people in the water. So as far as an adaptive diver, they can contact us through info@diveheart.org. Then there's a set of paperwork they need to fill out. They need to talk to their doctor. We're not doctors ourselves, so we want them to talk to their doctors, let them know this is something they want to try. And if the doctor feels like they are capable of being able to go underwater, even if it's just to 12 feet, then they can come to a session. So some of the challenges are, how do I get there? And my doctor is afraid that I can't do this. So we actually work with doctors sometimes and let them talk to other professional doctors that are more knowledgeable about scuba diving, and they can talk to each other and in their doctor way and share the information that they need so that someone might be able to get in the water with us that they thought they couldn't at first.
Well, all right, and we'll get to the film in a second, but having talked to you before and seen videos of what you're doing and photos, and then this film documentary, which is going to be premiering on Wednesday, I'm amazed at the different kinds of people. So at some point, because you've been doing this, since 2001, right?
Right. We're 22, 21 this year? 21.
Wow. All right.
Congratulations.
Give them there we go. I'm not going to say you know better than doctors, but you also know that people who might not think they're capable of this are actually capable of this. And so I imagine you're always, when you're talking to doctors, you're saying, I think they can handle this. And I can see where some doctors might be cautious about it, but you have the experience of having watched people get into the water who are amputees, who are paralyzed.
Quadriplegic.
Right. People who have degenerative diseases, which we see in the film, on and on. So you have the kind of experience that even the doctors do not have.
I think where that comes to more into play is someone who might be like, what we get sometimes is people on the autism spectrum or people with Down syndrome. If it's a cognitive thing, I've had teachers and stuff say, well, they're never going to pay enough attention to you. They're not going to be able to do that. Whereas when we're working with a person, we have experienced where their focus is right there on us. And I actually have some testimonials from parents that said, the focus that they're putting into diving with us, because the parents will be like, if you don't pay attention to Tina Marie and Jim in the water, then you're not going to be able to go down under the water. That has translated then into their schoolwork or into other aspects of their life outside of the water. That concentration, that focus that they're able to do with us or build with us, then translates to something else. Now, as far as physical,
the success they see.
They see that focus and being able to build that type of focus with us then translates, right? Whereas like sometimes because we're not medical doctors, we don't know that there might be a condition underneath, maybe some pressure related item or things like that. That's where I really want those doctors to understand and talk to the other scuba related doctors so that they really know someone's going to be safe. Safety is a paramount thing. I'm the risk officer at the company, so I'm always like, we got to make sure that's okay.
And what I'm amazed by is how, you're talking about the autism and how it expands to the rest of their lives, but also the physical benefits of doing this for people who are in constant pain. Sometimes it relieves it. In the film, it talks about up to 2 weeks that they lose this, so they're off of the meds for some time, and this is a kind of relief that most of us will never understand. And other benefits of being in that kind of pressure underwater, which is not a negative pressure, but a positive pressure on the body. Correct?
The gravity is different at that point.
Right. So you get a as you go down, pressure increases as you go down in the water column. And it really does seem to be, it holds you up in one case. Other ways, it kind of gives you a hug. It gives people, I think that's part of the Zen moment that a lot of divers have while they're underwater. And it does help. We are always encouraging more and more doctors, researchers to do the research because what we're finding anecdotally, we would love to be able to see and more papers that can come out because that's how we're going to get more doctors who are prescribing medication. I mean, can you imagine if you could do a nice, maybe you don't get to get off the medication, but you're able to adjust it to a point where the person's quality of life is improved. That's where we're about. We're not going to cure anyone, but we want to improve your quality of life if we can.
All right.
So Tina, as you've seen more adaptive programs out there, Special Olympics gets more attention. You know, I'm even a few years ago, I was helping a little. I wasn't personally involved, but indirectly involved with adaptive sailing programs. Is it getting more attention from the medical community of the benefits?
You know, this past in 2021, we were shocked that 5 occupational therapy doctoral students reached out to us and said, we'd like to either do research with you, do our capstone project with you, or do our required, internship with you. So these 5 people came out to us and they did some amazing work. We were able to do our symposium around, we did one day that focused specifically on occupational therapy. We did another day that focused specifically about recreational therapy. And those are up on our YouTube page if anyone wants to go see it. But they were awesome conversations and really good insight. So now what one of the doctoral candidates helped us do is we created a 1-hour presentation for physical therapists, recreational therapists, and occupational therapists, and we're able to deliver those for continuing education program, credits for those professionals. And this is really a passion for me because this is the way I feel we're going to be able to get into those areas, hopefully catch a lot of the younger professionals as they enter their practices and really see that this would become more of a common thing versus an exception thing.
All right.
And we're working on programs to make that even an easier way for that to make that happen.
All right, which takes us to Dive Heart, the movie. And here's what I'm going to do. Rather than ask you to explain it, I'm going to play the film trailer because it explains it as well as anything could, and then we can talk about it when we come back.
I thought I was doing everything right. I married young, and we had 3 kids by the time I was 30. Fast forward many years, and then I turned 50. I always figured by now I'd be rich, my kids would be grown, and my wife and I would be on our way to retirement. But that isn't what happened. I went bankrupt. We went through a divorce, and our oldest son was addicted to opiates. I was depressed and I had felt like I'd failed. So I decided to get away with my best friend Scott, who just so happens to be my brother, and go on a scuba diving trip. Now on this trip I met this guy named Jim, and he takes people who are wheelchair users scuba diving. It's called adaptive diving. When they get under the water, they have this astronaut moment, and they feel this sense of freedom and independence. And I thought, I need a life-changing experience right now. So I called him and I said, hey, let's make a documentary about adaptive divers. Then life did what life does. It gave me a challenge to overcome. 7 days before the trip, my 27-year-old son died of a drug overdose. After some conversation, my family and I decided that I should still go and we'd have the funeral after I got back. So I went on this trip to be of service and to tell a story. And I invite you to join me and see what happens and watch as I try to heal my heart and go on my soul's journey. My name is David Marsh.
I'm so
And
excited.
I'll bet you are.
Congratulations.
And
Oh,
the
thank you.
Yeah, it's and I wish we could show more because I want to suck people in even more to the film. When you meet the people who are on this adventure, which is Cozumel in December, which was the first time you had gone out in a couple of years, and then earlier you had run into this filmmaker, and of course Jim Elliott, being Jim Elliott, made the most of it.
Sucked him right in.
Sucked him right in. I mean, Jim is just like, no, nothing happens by accident, and he made it happen. There are people in the world who are really, really good at that. I'm not one of those people, but Jim Elliott is. And so Marsh is on this trip with you, and he's shooting the whole thing, and he's getting his life together, and these other people are getting their lives together, and it's really quite a moving documentary. And just so folks know, I've got the links. First of all, you can go to diveheart.org and find all that information. But you can also go to my website, mikenovak.net, in my blog post. It's called Adapting to Dive. You can click on the link. It premieres this Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. At Classic Cinemas, Tivoli Theater, 5021 Highland Avenue in Downers Grove, Illinois. And that's for Peggy. And you can be part of this. There's still tickets available, aren't there?
There are tickets available. It's a beautiful classic theater. It holds 1,000 people.
Wow.
And so please come, bring your friends. It's going to be a really nice night. A lot of the people in the movie are coming to see it. So they're going to be
really?
there. Yes, the filmmaker and his brother are both coming, and we'll have a question and answer after playing the film. And then because I like to share the glory, there were a couple pieces that were made before the film, and at 6:30 the doors open, but then at 7 we're going to show those two pieces. And one piece, which is kind of my favorite up to now, is a piece that was done by 3 local high school students. At the time they were in high school, now they're probably almost graduating college. But 2 of the girls are going to be there, and they're going to be able to see their piece up on the big screen for the first time. And so I'm very excited about that as well.
Are you going to interview any of the folks who are in the film afterward? Is there any kind of session, Q&A session?
Well, they're going to be there, and so again, kind of challenge by choice. If anybody wants to come up and make comments and things like that, there's going to be a lot of mixing and mingling. We'll have Dive Heart swag and Dive Heart. People I'm sure are all going to be just talking the whole evening. And getting to know each other and getting to know some of these people. They're just all incredible people, the volunteers as well as the adaptive divers.
This was shot in December, and it's May. That's actually kind of a quick turnaround, isn't it?
He's amazing. He has a lot of different interests, and he really wanted to get it out before life got too busy and sweeps you away into the next project. So we met him just in September, and then he was willing to come in December, and then he shot I think 10 hours of film. So can you imagine that he took from 10 hours down to 1? But he was generous and shared a lot. So we might be producing other things off of this, the film that he captured then. And we're very, very pleased with the outcome. I was lucky enough to be able to give input to the creation of this piece and help David navigate, what he wanted to say in the film.
Yeah. And I will tell people that you'll be moved by this, and you're going to learn a ton about it. What would you say?
And he's a great turtle too.
Oh yeah,
right. the infamous turtle.
the infamous turtle, but there's also sharks, and there's an octopus in there, and an octopus's garden, which you guys visit. What in terms of that trip being special, since it was the first one since you came back after a couple of years, and then having a fellow documenting it on film, That had to have been not only special, but put a lot of pressure on you, I would think.
I guess, well, for Jim, he lives for this. So he's, always
Yeah.
calm. I get a little nervous, Nellie. I'm used to being in the background and not being up front. So when David would be like, all right, Tina, tell me about what's going to happen tomorrow. What's going to happen? And I'd be like, oh, I don't know what to say. We're going to be diving. But everybody did such a good job. They shared very emotional pieces of themselves, I think sometimes. I've seen it 3 times and I have yet to get through it without shedding a tear myself. And it's a good shedding a tear. I'm not sad for anybody. It's just one of those moments where you're just so happy to see how people are able to embrace life and the attitudes that they bring and the inspiration you get from having people that are so positive.
And they are. And those stories, they are from the heart. Nobody shies away from what they're experiencing, whether they have ALS or whether they are a paraplegic, and they describe the accident in almost sort of a matter-of-fact way. It's like, well, this happened to me, and now this is who I am today.
Right.
Yeah, there's one woman who talks about her stroke in there.
Mm-hmm. And that's what's so awesome about what we do. Some people are like, oh, you're like Make-A-Wish. I'm like, yeah, but every month.
And some people get to come, and people get to come back too. It's not like Make-A-Wish that happens
Right.
once in your life. You get to come back. If this is good for you and healthy for you, you can say, oh, I need to do this again. Correct?
Right. And I don't want to discourage people from saying, oh, I'll never be able to go on a trip. We actually fundraise with people. So there's a young man who's coming on a December trip, and he's already raised all the money he needs to be able to come on this trip. And he really can't wait to be on the trip. So we do a lot of fundraising for people. I'm hosting the first Women of Diveheart trip in October, and I've been busy raising money for that because I want all these special ladies to be able to come and be able to share, how there's also a very strong amount of women that support Diveheart and are a part of it.
It looks like that's our theme. Earlier on we talked about women in arboriculture, and now it's the women of Diveheart. And so let's make
the video, Women of Diveheart short video up on YouTube as well.
Yes, that was part of I was like, gosh, and that was part of David's footage that he helped share with me because I was telling him what I wanted to do.
Fantastic. Well, and let's make clear, if you can be part of Diveheart and for free go into the pool locally. But if you want to go on these trips, it costs money, and you can fundraise for it, and apparently you guys will help if you possibly can.
We do. We help as much as we can. We just, we want it to be a partnership. Partnerships are big with us. We're partnering with our adaptive divers. We partner with the people who make donations, with our volunteers, with the business communities. And, I'm really excited that there's so many people coming into our hometown at Downers Grove. Downers Grove has been, the community has been very supportive of Diveheart through the 21 years. Jim grew up in Downers Grove, so it's very near and dear to his heart. And I'm really excited to be able to share that with the people that are coming into town. We have people as far as the Galapagos are coming. And then we have people who are coming from Hawaii, people coming from Honduras, who were part of that team that was there in December. But I'm really excited that they feel connected to us enough where they want to come celebrate with us.
You know the famous joke from Emo Phillips about Downers Grove, don't you?
I don't think I do.
I don't know if it's that famous. I always thought it was pretty funny. He said, Downers Grove. When I was 11, my folks moved to Downers Grove. When I was 12, I found them. So Peggy,
I didn't know that, but that's
Peggy
good.
does not appreciate my humor ever. So there we go. I thought it was pretty funny. Anyway.
Is that officially a dad joke?
It probably
help?
is. Yeah, it's just it's a dumb dad joke. So, all right, Tina Marie, thank you so much. Tell that Jim Elliott guy that he doesn't get to duck me any longer. Okay, that next time he has to be on the show too.
He was sad he was going to miss you, but he's at a trade show right now. Getting the word out in California, and so I got to talk to you two today, and I'm very very happy I was. So thank you very much, and I hope we can see some of your viewers, listeners at the event on Wednesday.
Right, Wednesday, May 18th, 6:30 p.m. Classic Cinemas, Tivoli Theater, 5021 Highland Avenue in Downers Grove. Okay. All right. Yeah, Peggy, we'll think about that one and get back to me later on it. Tina Marie, thank you so much, and much luck with the documentary. I'm sure that is going to be shown far and wide, and it's going to inspire a lot of people.
Yeah, we'll be sharing it to people who can't come to the event, I'm sure, within the next coming weeks. So thank you very much.
All right. Take care.
Thank you,
It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. More when we return. Please stick around.
Andrew at Urban Greens. Hey, this is Joel. We are an indoor hydroponics farm in the Twin Cities. We grow lettuce, greens, and herbs and deliver them year-round. And for the last year or so, we've been growing with Happy Leaf LEDs.
Yeah, before that we were using LED light bars from some of the big guys, Philips, GE. We ran into Poly a little over a year ago at a market outside Chicago, and since then we've been on the Happy Leaf train.
Yep, and a year in, we are extremely pleased with how they perform for us. We have some rainbow chard here growing. We get excellent growth. The growth is quick, leaves are thick, plants are sturdy, and Happy Leaf LEDs have worked well across all of our plant varieties.
Yeah, we use them for our seedlings as well, and that's honestly where we've seen some of the biggest improvements. Seedlings under Happy Leaf are coming in full and thicker stems than what we've seen under the other lights we've used.
From spring seed and soil treatments to summer foliar feeding to fall stubble digesters, Blazing Star provides microbial tools from tiny biologicals for natural and organic farmers. They have solutions for home gardeners too. And Blazing Star offers agroecological education and consulting, especially for permaculture work in zones 4 and 5. Learn more about these great folks at blazing-star.com.
The Arctic is warming almost 3 times faster than the rest of the planet, changing the Arctic ecosystems forever, causing destruction around the planet. Once Arctic ice melts, we can't get it back. We can't negotiate the melting point of ice. World leaders must take immediate action to keep 1.5 alive.
And I have something to show you. I have the star of that PSA right here.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Wow.
Of course, that's not made of ice, but
Yeah. Nice.
We collect bears
Mhm.
here. We have a few.
I've got a purple one like that. I
Do you?
should've
Is
grabbed
it
Yeah.
glass?
It is stone.
Ah, okay. And we got a few others. I know there's another. Wait. Hang on a second. All right. Give me 2
It's
seconds.
not a
here.
bear.
Hang on.
It's a bison.
Be right back.
It's a bison. Hey, folks. Just
talk
refill
amongst
their coffee.
yourselves.
Yeah. Oh, here's the bison.
Oh, there we go.
Let's see. I'm looking at another bison, a wolf, a hedgehog. Oh, here's a bear.
Okay. Get a bear. There you go.
There's a bear.
So we
I
have
can't see it too well. Not in front of me.
bears on parade.
Let's So I got a cat, an owl, an elephant, a frog, a couple of fish.
Well, I see a
Frog.
dinosaur. Oh, there's another
I
bear.
collect a lot of these. I collect these stone animals. I've got some great turtles. They're just not here. They're in another room.
They've
Snakes.
crawled off into the pond.
They're on all the windows.
You sent me a text, and that's a great idea because we had a comment about the tick spray that Bartlett uses. I don't know what they use. I should find out, and I can find out from the folks at Bartlett Tree Experts.
But we should have a tick segment.
We should do a segment on ticks. I think that would be very, very useful and important.
Yeah.
So, yes.
We were going to talk about your little brief plant behind your plant behind you briefly.
Oh,
and
well,
it's gardening awards, but look what I just picked before the show here.
Is that Lily of the Valley?
Mhm.
I've got them coming up like crazy in my yard. It's time for some aggressive maneuvers back there.
My dad used to call it Lily of the Alley.
Lily of the I like that. See?
I remember one year he'd had it up to here, and they all, I shovels were passed out, and we all
And then you passed
worked
out.
on 'em. This was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty for about a month. They're pretty for a week or two, and then beyond that, they're just invasive.
Oh, and by the
smell
way,
so
one thing I didn't get to when Skeet was on the show with Megan Kasinsky, he's always sending us information from the Plant Health Care Report in the Home Yard and Garden Pest newsletter. The Plant Health Care Report is by the Morton Arboretum and comes out on a regular basis, as does the Home Yard and Garden Pest newsletter. I've got links to both of those.
From U of I. Yeah.
That's from University of Illinois Extension. And you should click on those and get a subscription. It's free. And they're always reporting on different kinds of horticultural issues, insects, diseases, plants, just all kinds of stuff.
What to look out for, what's an invasive plant, what's a plant disease that, okay, it looks ugly, but there's really no, it's not going to hurt the plant. It just looks weird.
Yeah.
Versus this is a problem.
Yeah. And I was looking at the, I hope I can find it. It was in the Home Yard and Garden Pest. Let's go to, that says the current
Yeah, they had the
issue.
galls in it this week.
Yeah, and there was also, they got crane fly larvae and turf grass. Okay. Boxwood leaf miner. Calorie pear, easily noticeable in bloom and threatening. Yes, as we mentioned. But there was something that, I thought maybe it wasn't in this one. Maybe it was in, because it was the plant that grows in your yard that you can't get rid of, the little white flowers, and I can't remember the name.
Star of Bethlehem.
Star of Bethlehem. I don't know if it was in that one or in the Plant Health Care Report. It might have been in the Plant Health Care Report. They're
all starting to bloom right now, too.
Are they? And they have issues on how to deal, or rather advice on how to deal with that. Let's see if it's here.
Yeah, because even when you try to dig it, there's so many hundreds of bulblets. You leave one behind, and
yep.
They're
So
everywhere.
maybe it was the last one. Real quick, I'm just going
I'll
through the
have to look
plant
for
health
that.
care because I know somebody did something on it really recently. Survey says.
So for someone
No.
who's not familiar with it, it looks like very wide leaf chives popping up all over your garden, your lawn, you're popping through the driveway, through everything else.
I can't
And
believe
they're
it.
just everywhere.
Yeah. So those, I advise you to subscribe to those. Go to my blog, the blog on my website at mikenovak.net, and scroll down where it says, and Skeet too. And they're right under that, in that paragraph. We mentioned at the top of the show that Monty, the piping plover from Montrose Beach, has passed on. The headline.
And very suddenly, too.
Yeah, Monty, the piping plover, is dead. Birding community stunned and mourning. Patty Wetley wrote this in WTTW News. And I have to just give her a shout out because she's doing, I think, some of the best science and nature reporting in Chicago right now overall, covering various issues. She seems to at least strike a chord in me and the kinds of stuff she covers. It said the cause of death is unknown, but plover monitors said it was not due to predation. They typically live fewer than 5 years, and Monty hatched in 2017, so do the math. It says Leslie Bournes, longtime steward at Montrose Beach Dune, was at the beach Friday and arrived at the scene minutes after Monty died. She spoke with plover monitor Daniela Herrera, who had been keeping an eye on Monty and witnessed his final moments, seeing him fall over a number of times in the dune habitat, appearing to gasp for air. And she was so smart, she immediately had the presence of mind to get some ice from the nearby Montrose dock and collect and transport Monty's body to the Lincoln Park Zoo for testing. So they'll find out what the exact cause of death was. So that's sad. And of course, Rose has not returned, and it's quite possible she never will. Again, plovers, it's interesting because many birds live a long time. It's, not unusual to hear parrots living for decades. It was interesting because I thought, my parents had a parrot. They unfortunately, oh boy, they took it outside on the back porch, and then the neighbors came out and made a loud noise, and the parrot flew away, and that was the end of that. So why they didn't have it,
who knows,
in some container or a cage of some kind, that was just, but oh well. But I was afraid that the parrot was going to outlive them, and it may still.
Well, as we talked about when the show started, and as a lot of people commenting, including Patty at the end of the article, she was interviewing Bob Dolgan, or commented on Bob's posts on social media, that two little birds brought huge attention to in the environment, to the lakefront, to the importance of coastal dunes, coastal habitat. Even, I think for the Chicago birding community and in general, during the pandemic, they brought joy.
Yeah.
People are now looking at more people are now aware of some of the issues of coastal habitat as a result.
Yeah. And coastal habitat and just nature in general. It was a way of people connecting and anthropomorphizing. Thank you. Whatever. Unfortunately, because the birds are not human beings, but we like that. We like stories, and that was a good story.
Yeah, it was a feel-good story, and that the awareness that the beach's nature is not just for the people there, but it's for all of wildlife that's there.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens next. We'll find out why Monty died, and see if Rose ever returns. We don't know. Second story on our list here, and again, if you go to the blog post, I've listed a bunch of these stories. The Haboob derecho, by any name, plains dust storm was strong. This was a dust storm that happened on the plains. It never got to Chicago because you could see the circulation on the map. It's a shame we don't have Rick DeMaio here because he would have sent me all kinds of maps about it, I'm sure.
By the way, Rick will be back in June.
Maybe.
Wondering where he is.
We'll see if he shows up. But you could see the circulation of it, and then it went north. It went into Canada. It didn't come our way, which is unusual. But one of the
picked up dust.
Yeah, and here's a photo by Corey Jennings. I'm not even sure where I picked this up on Twitter or someplace. That is terrifying. This was the dust storm, and I think this might have been North Dakota. That is terrifying. And here is a video of it. Oh, whoops, let's not do that. Hold on. Back. Here's the video of it. You might find terrifying as well. This is the storm rolling in. And nobody wants to see that coming their way. And then, of course, darkness descends.
Mhm.
Now, if that, and I'll play that back.
It was headed for Rapid City in part, wasn't it?
I thought it was east or west, east of that, but I don't know. But if that kind of thing or this kind of thing looks familiar, some of you might remember photos like this from the Dust Bowl. And I want to thank Kathleen for getting me several photos of these archival photos. This is what we dealt with in the 30s in the middle of the country. And it reminded me of that storm. When I saw that storm rising up, I thought, holy smoke, this looks like these photos from the Dust Bowl.
Oklahoma and Nebraska. And
Right. And so, and here we are in 2021. That's a remarkable photo. Well, that is just incredible. So I thought we should, as a kind of a tribute to Rick DeMille, do a little bit on that. And there was an article from AccuWeather about the weather we've had this week. The headline, Chicago was hotter than Death Valley this week as heat waves surged north. That ain't good. Of course, we don't get to the kind of temperatures that Death Valley.
we get the humidity that Death Valley doesn't get.
Exactly. That was on Wednesday that we hit a temperature that was higher than the high temperature recorded at Death Valley.
Stressing a lot of new plants that people had put out already.
Yeah.
And house plants.
And speaking of, we'll get to armadillos in a second, because you've got, I see from your neck of the woods, the patch. Peggy sent me the story from the patch in Highland Park. I don't know why they had to use the word slimy. Slimy jumping worms, again, wreaking havoc on soil, Illinois gardeners.
Anything from getting attention to the same problem insects have around the world. Ew,
slimy worms. Well, all worms are slimy, so the jumping worms are not any slimier than any other worm. But the article says that Illinois residents who have gardens are again being asked to keep an eye out for jumping worms, the earthworms that are capable of jumping a foot into the air. Now, I've never seen that. I've seen them writhe on the ground, but they also.
I just forwarded it to you. I don't.
Yeah, but you live in Highland Park, so.
It was actually that article was picked up from an Illinois something.
Yeah.
Article.
But
one thing I was surprised, that article said if you shop at garden centers, you don't have to be concerned.
And I don't know why they would say that.
I don't know.
Because
that's
that's how they're getting transported, that kind of thing. In Chicago area, jumping worms have been confirmed in Cook, DuPage, McHenry, Kane, and Will counties. Of course, they say once established, jumping worms can damage plant roots, lawns, or ornamental gardens. Experts said that once the jumping worms have taken up home in a soil, the soil looks more like coffee grounds. Yes, I've seen it in my own backyard, which makes for less than ideal growing conditions for gardeners. Yes, it strips the soil of nutrients. And interesting, they say this does not sound the alarm and panic situation, but it is one to keep an eye out for and know about. Chris Evans said, hasn't Chris been on our show? I don't know. I know I've seen him speak, I think. It says, jumping worms do not disperse very fast on their own. It is a human-aided spread that can be an issue. Well, that's the whole problem, is that it's human spread. In pots and on tools. The eggs can be transported. It's hard to
Yeah.
tell.
It's the same way most of the invasives get spread.
We do it. Yay, humans, yay. We spread them around. So just more on, and they advise if you find jumping worms in your yard, put them in a plastic bag, let them sit out in the sun, and don't flush them down the toilet though, because they'll end up elsewhere. Just telling you, don't do that. One thing that kind of honked me off. All right, let's get to this because we're almost out of time.
Something honking you off, really?
Yeah, really. Yeah, I know. It's surprising. I'm such a mild-mannered guy. I'm so even-tempered. The story on armadillos, and other people covered it, but the Tribune did. And the armadillos, the headline is, "Armadillos have arrived in downstate Illinois and are heading north. Yes, you might someday see an armadillo in your backyard." And of course, there's a guy taking a photo of armadillo roadkill.
Yeah, why was it pictures of all that you saw in this article was dead armadillos? Or taxidermied.
Yep.
armadillos.
Stinking to high heaven.
Thank you, Loudon.
Yeah, so, I'm not surprised that the armadillos are moving north. Sure, and it doesn't bother me. I mean, are we supposed to fear them? Armadillos are cool. I don't know how much damage they can do.
I think it was talking about how much damage of digging under people's decks and ripping up gardens and plants and yards. And
worse than chipmunks? I mean, I can't imagine anything doing more damage in your yard than the beasts you already have there.
Yeah. Well, the point of this article, although it was a little bit too cute's not the word.
Well, all
I
right.
didn't like the way.
Let me start with, they put it, okay, it's under entertainment. That is the section the doofuses at the Chicago Tribune put it under. Entertainment. Yeah. Climate change. That's so funny. Oh, isn't that, it's just a hoot. It's hilarious. We love our climate change, don't we? Come on, you guys.
Look at these armadillos marching on in. I think it called them bumbling and
all the cutesy words that you can think of. This is what happens when you let.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There was another story a year or two ago that was the same thing, where it was just everything was tried to make it cutesy and tried to make it whatever.
Well, a lot of the natural world articles are like that. Okay. Anytime you see a story about a bee, it's going to have the word buzz in it. The buzz about the bees. And it's just, it's annoying. At a certain point, it's like, can we let it go? And part of the problem is, this is what happens when you turn over one of the great newspapers in the country to Alden Global Capital. So just saying. Anyway, folks, you can look at that stuff. We've got it there for you to look at and see what's going on in the world, and we hope actually that you do that, because it's time for us to get out of here. Wait.
Oh, you
all right,
started
no,
the music
I can do
machine.
that. I can do that. I have the power.
You live in the city of Chicago and you got a garden. What do they need to do?
Oh, you're right. Sorry about that. Here's what they need to do is go to Chicago Gardening Awards.org. As you can see, you can read it right there on that. And enter your garden in the Chicago Excellence in Gardening Awards. We're accepting applications now. They're coming in. We'll be sending our judges out. You might get yourself a very cool sign. Have you got your cool sign there? Hold on. No, you don't.
And no, I don't, because it'll fall behind my desk if I try to get it again.
Like you did last time. Okay.
And if you would like to be a judge, you don't have to live in the city of Chicago. We are still accepting a few applications for people who would like to help judge this year.
And we hope you know something about gardening if you do that.
Well,
So that wouldn't hurt. You know, it's something that we might want to do. All right, can we start this again? So anyway, go to chicagogardeningawards.org. We're accepting applications until July 1st, so you got some time if you haven't figured out because of the cool spring whether your garden is worthy in your own mind. I'm sure it looks great.
And it can be your community garden, your church garden, your work garden, your
patio,
street
your
garden in front of your business,
the parkway, container garden, a farm, an urban farm, whatever you want to do.
a rain garden.
A rain garden. And you might win a rain barrel. Speaking of rain gardens, you might win a rain barrel courtesy of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. And a very cool SIGA sign. So now, can we get out of here?
And away we go.
Want to thank everybody who was on the show today. Of course, Megan Kasinsky and Skeet from Bartlett Tree Experts. Oh, wait, yes. Want to thank Tina Marie Hernandez from Dive Heart. Their premiere is of their documentary is Wednesday. Go to my website and find out more. Want to thank Kathleen, as always. Want to thank Basil the dog, Lagata the cat, everybody watching. We really appreciate you guys being around. Until next time, go green or
go home.
Stadler?
Yeah, what?
Is that it?
Yes, it's over. How'd you like it?
I don't know. I slept through the whole thing.
Well, you didn't miss much.